Greg. How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing, Chris?
I'm so glad that you're here at the Lo-Fi Lounge, and during uh, this very odd year, I had the pleasure and was just the joy of picking up your new album, Imperial Gardens. Just from the beginning, if people haven't heard it, it's an instrumental album. It's almost a rhapsodic in its intent. And
Yeah.
I wrote these little notes. It says it has many ravines of lyrical beauty. When did you start working on this album?
This record, I started recording this record with David Immergluck producing in 2010.
Wow.
Yeah, it's way back. And so, so basically after I did the Change record, I kind of felt like I felt like trying to get a little bit more connected to just the music and put the lyrics and the singer-songwriter thing to the side for the moment.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I was, I don't know, somehow I felt like I was, sometimes when I'm like writing songs and writing lyrics and then playing acoustic guitar, it's almost like it's its own kind of thing. And then somehow the music gets kind of put to the side, and I'm just so focused on fitting lyrics to me playing rhythm guitar. And then also there was a lot of me working a certain way based on what I thought I should be doing, based on what other people do,
Right.
Like, and those other people that do that, like the Kinks and all that kind of stuff, like I'm big fans of that stuff.
Right.
But for some reason I got it in my head. I'm like, I felt somewhat a little disconnected or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm like going to write a song. So it was like I was kind of becoming something else to do that. Right. Instead of just being myself. I felt like there was a disconnect from me just being myself, writing songs with the guitar in a traditional sense. I felt like there was something kind of missing a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's almost like in service of the song versus service to yourself.
Yes.
The note I wrote down, it says, overall, a quiet musical journey is closer to his heart, maybe closer to your musical self.
I thought, let me take a break from the singer-songwriter thing and try to get closer to my heart musically, you know what I mean? And then, making instrumental music as well is, when you don't have lyrics, there's other challenges that are involved in making stuff interesting and arrangements and all that stuff. And I kind of really wanted to get into that. I thought I kind of had this idea to do that, but basically like the songs that are on that record, 2/3 of the record are all songs that I had written that were laying around. I've got hours and hours of me doing 4-track demos.
Sure.
So I had a lot of these songs sitting around, and I thought, well, this shouldn't be too hard for me to kind of sift through all this stuff and find stuff that will fit together as an album. And then I also had the rest of it was stuff I'd been working on prior to going into the studio. And so I kind of combined it all. And then also I'd never worked with David Immergluck as a producer on a producer level with him producing me. I kind of threw this idea out to him, and he said, I love it. I'm into it. Let's do this. And then he really wanted me to come to LA. He thought it'd be good for me to get out of my comfort zone.
Sure.
So there was like a lot of firsts on this record. And then the other thing too, is like, I really wanted to do this. I was also thinking I really want to cut my teeth on engineering and the editing and stuff with Pro Tools. Yeah. So I would say that almost 80% of the guitars were all recorded in my house.
Right.
And so that was there was so much learning, so many firsts. And then, but yeah, as far as the studios and going in and working with the drummer, and Immergluck played some bass, and we brought in some other people to do some things. He was like, come down to LA, get out of your comfort zone. Let's just, just come down here and let's just work. Cause he's done so much session work. He's just kind of got this black book, of all these people he meets and connects with. So when when it was time, if he had an idea to bring someone in to do something, he just kind of call them up. They come down, session type things, and just come in. And and it was like so different from how I was used to working. It's like me and him, we complete our sentences, for me and David, when we're talking, it's really funny. It's like he's kind of like my musical confidant too. It's like he gets me. He knows what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And he's always got cool references. A lot of the stuff that he references, I might not be familiar with. It's kind of interesting,
Yeah.
Because he's a big fan of a bunch of, British blues stuff from the 60s and English folk rock and stuff. And
well, I probably have used "Oh Well," a version of "Oh Well" about 4 times in my show, just because I love the way you guys play it, and you do see that 2-guitar relationship.
Yes,
that you guys have, because you're very different kinds of players.
We're very different, very different players. But I love it. I mean, that's what I think makes it work. Is that when we kind of blend it together, and especially the interlocking stuff when we're kind of. It's like talking back and forth, and there's definitely some magic there, I think.
The beauty of it jumped out, but the how well recorded it is.
Oh yeah,
it just jumps out. It jumps out of the speakers. It's just meticulous, the sound, and that was one of the things I was saying. Well, how was this produced? Because how you got the voice of your guitars to come through in so many ranges, because you have your kind of funkier stuff, but you sort of more pure melodic acoustic lines that are just so, I mean, not only they're well played, but they are produced so well that some very, very fine touches that you have there just come right through.
Oh, thanks, Chris. Awesome. I mean, I was able to get so inside of recording all that guitar stuff too.
Just a geek kind of question then. How are you miking that you got that some of those, the richness of that came through?
It's a Martin D28, and I picked up it's a really beautiful sounding guitar, and I had picked up I just picked up a couple of these Octava, these cheap Chinese or Russian mics, small diaphragm condensers, and I did it like I was just calling people, everyone I could call, to get advice on how to put things together, and looking on YouTube and scouring books and doing all this stuff. So a lot of it was just kind of research and development and trying different things. But, I record it, especially, the songs where the acoustic guitar was kind of the focal point of the tune. I was definitely going for the stereo guitar thing with those mics, and I had a couple of Summit Audio preamps, and I was just geeking out trying to experiment and try to put it all together.
And it's interesting that they almost call songs from because though they're instrumentals, the melodies are so specific and song-like, I mean lyric-like, that they do function as songs. And but you always perceived it as an instrumental. You were saying, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to pull myself out of this kind of songwriter mentality. As you started to do these different styles of music, because you kind of have this acoustic stuff. You even have, I don't know, is it like Dance of the Shrews, where there's the
kind of Celtic Irish
Celtic piece. So as you started to put these pieces together, did they kind of start lining up into different paths?
It's kind of funny. The other part of the story with this record too, it's like, I somehow feel kind of pigeonholed, that people always think of me as just kind of doing one thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, great, lead guitar, or, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Electric guitar. So I think that when I did this, like, I was really trying to drag a big net and really kind of show people that I'm capable of of playing many different styles. Like, and I always liked records like that. And that's one of the things I liked about Camper. When I first joined Camper, you know, I'm not on the very first record. I joined before it came out, after it was recorded.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I'm not on it. But one of the things I liked about the band that I was joining was the fact that they had this record and they had all these like kind of, you know, all these different types of songs on it. Like some stuff sounded kind of like folky European folk, and then kind of rock, and there's like some punk, and there's some kind of country, and there's like all kinds of weird stuff. So I kind of felt like when I was putting it together, it's like I really wanted to kind of show people that I'm capable of doing. I'm capable of doing these different things.
Right.
And especially as a writer too, you know, like there's some stuff that sounds kind of bluegrass. There's some really folky sounding stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different styles. So I think I kind of intentionally went out of my way to choose these songs that were just everything kind of represented a little something else. You know, there's like a classical guitar piece, and I just wanted a bit of everything.
It really helps the whole album as kind of a journey too. It's like that if someone's going to learn about you as a guitar player, it's a real good journey, because it shows you have a very fine melodic sense all through your playing anyway. But you're in these in these song constructs. I was just interested in, you know, how these chords kind of shift, and how it's very subtle. Some of the things you do are almost kind of jazz-like in their versions. So it's just kind of a carnival of different.
A carnival, yes, absolutely. And then, you know, a lot of it too is David Emmergluck. You know, he was the one to kind of, you know, put together the sequence, how the order of the song should go. A lot of it has to do with how he kind of put it together, how he put together the sequence, how the record kind of starts, it kind of ramps up. Yeah. You know, it's like kind of like what you're talking about. It's kind of got a flow to it in a weird way. And it does, like he said that too. Yeah. He's like, I'm really liking this sequence. Tell me what you think. To me, when I listen to this, it's almost like it's like you're being taken on a journey from the beginning, and it's just taking you all these different places. And I thought, that sounds cool. I liked his idea, you know, the concept behind it.
You do have a guitar voice. You have a honed, you know, both sound and then
style,
melodic attack.
I would imagine a lot of that stuff kind of evolved from me just playing with Camper, you know, and playing all these kind of, you know, it's kind of funny because like David Lowery always said, oh, Greg's like such a chameleon. Like we play, you know, our band does all these different styles, and it's like, I wasn't, you know, I remember when we recorded Sad Lover's Waltz on the second record, you know, 2 and 3. Yeah. And it's like, I'd never played country music in my entire life. Right. So in this weird way, you know, I was kind of faking. I was kind of going, well, I think this is kind of what they do in this style of music, but I know that I'm kind of doing it wrong, and I don't, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so I think part of my style probably came from a lot of those experiences. Right. And then, but the other thing too is, you know, Chris Mola was a big influence on me as a guitar player. Yeah. When I joined the band, there was a period of time where he was still kind of in the band. Sure, right. And I was in the band, and, you know, he was going to UCSC and he was studying classical guitar, you know, and there was this kind of classical guitar thing going on. And I got really interested in that. I ended up kind of taking around the time that we did, probably like Our Beloved Revolutionary Sweetheart, somewhere around there. I was like taking classical guitar lessons, you know, and I got really influenced by what Chris was doing. But the funny thing is, it was always like, I felt like I never quite sold my soul to that, you know, to those styles. No. I remember I had this guy, this teacher, you know, and was doing this classical. I was working with one teacher. He was teaching me all these beginning classical stuff, and then stuff started getting a lot harder. And then there was a guy that was living in town who was like more serious teacher, you know, and I thought, well, I'd go talk to him and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of played some stuff for him, and then it became obvious that, you know, he's like, well, if you really want to take this seriously, you're going to have to really work harder. You know what I mean? And to me,
Sure.
it was like, kind of like what I was saying. It's like, I felt like, okay, I'm done. I got what I needed. And somehow incorporate what I've taken or stolen,
Yep.
and try to put it in the bag, you know, mix it up. And even before I joined Camper, like in 83 or 84, I was going to a junior college, and I was taking these jazz improv classes and then listening to all kinds of jazz.
Yeah.
So I was, you know, I think a lot of it is just like really having an open mind and listening to all kinds of different music. And somewhere along the way, you start kind of grabbing all this stuff, and it goes through this blender, and it never comes out pure, you know?
Yeah. Well, maybe that's the chameleon nature, is that you've taken things from different styles, but not being a slave to it. You
Right.
say once it goes in that blender, then it comes out as you. Good solos always have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And
Yes.
they have this structure that when that's missing, and I know some pretty good guitar players that got the first and the second, but not necessarily the third.
Yeah.
And that closer is really,
Yes.
don't have that yet. This the incomplete thought, and it drives me crazy. But
Absolutely.
it's sort of built into your nomenclature. So you grab from these different styles, and I think probably on this album was an opportunity to reblend, put
Yes.
that in the blender and say,
Yes.
here's these different things that you didn't know, or that folks didn't know about you, but maybe even entering into this music, you didn't even quite know about yourself.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And also, I think, you know, the fact that I'd gotten this Martin D28, I can't remember, you know, it must have been in the early 2003 or 2004. So
yeah,
I'd been playing, I had that sitting around on my couch where I was living at the time, and I was picking it up, doing stuff. And I think in the back of my head, I was like, oh, I really want to do a record where I'm really putting this guitar to use.
right.
You know, so I think there was a part of some excitement for me to really get into the acoustic.
When you're so as you putting some of these things together and you're getting recorded, did you even have the titles and stuff thought?
No, when you talk to Emmerich, look, you'll hear nothing but jokes and jokes and frustration towards me, because I mean, it's like I would have had this record out sooner if I had title. It was weird.
Really?
Titles are like super hard for me.
Yeah.
I spend too much time. I get distracted. I start working on other projects. I start doing all kinds of stuff. So I'm always got all these different things that I'm doing. And what I really need to be doing is I really need to be sitting down and focusing on finishing the titles, getting the title of the record, doing all the stuff that you're supposed to do to get stuff out. And it's weird. It's like I always want to be in the studio. I always want to be, you know, recording or playing or
the homework of the album. Okay,
yeah, exactly.
You owe us
like
titles now. You gotta have
and then the other thing too, you know, I had never done an instrumental record before. So, you know, when you're doing a singer-songwriter and you're writing lyrics and you got, you know, the titles are just always suggested in the lyrics.
Sure, yeah. So you
but when you're doing an instrumental record, it's like there's no lyrics to reference. So you really have to I really had to use my imagination and really it's kind of weird, but it's like you listen to these songs and you go, what does this music make me feel? You know, and then you sit down and you kind of jot down some things. I would, you know, get an idea, and then I would come back and like, I think this will go here. And I kept, you know, moving words around until I got something that I really wanted the titles to fit the the vibe of the song. Like that's the other thing too. It's like, oh, there's no lyrics to reference for a title, so I'm just going to make a bunch of random stuff. I couldn't do that either. I couldn't just randomly make stupid titles. Right. So I kind of felt like, man, it took me a little longer, you know. I actually spent time having to think about it, and like, I really want these titles to somehow represent the vibe of the music. And it was like, it was hard. So, well, but in the end, I liked everything. I liked the way it worked.
They're intriguing. I mean, you could tell, like Canyon to the Sea, you feel that thing. Now, Memories of a Child Actor, I'm thinking, okay, it's like a story. You said, like, well, you sense a story behind it. The Exterminating Angel, there's the film.
That Buñuel film, right?
Buñuel film. So was that a little bit like the dinner you couldn't leave?
Well, yeah, that's good. You know, that's funny because that was a couple of the song titles on the record were actually Immergluck suggestions, completely removed. I forgot about that. Three Kings and Exterminating Angel. Those were songs that he titled. And I had just seen that movie, recently. He told me about it.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah, he's a big foreign movie buff. I'm a big foreign movie buff. And he told me about it. He's like, oh, you haven't seen it? You got to check this out. It's like, it's a classic. So I saw it and I'm like, it's yours.
I think they all worked out great. Even the album cover, that's a wonderful cover.
Thanks.
How did that come together?
The guy that, all kind of comes from the title of the record, and the title, you know, the guy that plays drums on the record is Michael Jerome. He plays drums for Richard Thompson and Better Than Ezra. He was, we sent him a copy of I sent him an advanced, burned disc of the mixes, and he was like, I dig this project, and playing with you. It was really fun. This music, it reminds me of, he said something like it reminded him of a Baroque version of King Crimson or something like that. And when he said that, somehow it kind of stuck in my head. And I thought, it's kind of, because I was looking for a title, and I thought, there's something kind of royal, British royal imperial type thing about this. Yeah. And I also like the idea of a title kind of doing an umbrella encompassing all of the songs. They're like songs were from some place,
Oh,
and so then that's what was like the songs from the Imperial Garden. And so anyway, I thought, royal, imperial, the British love their gardens, the expanding, the expansive gardens and flowers. And somehow I just kind of got this imagery in my head. Right. And that's where it kind of started. And I'm a huge fan of flowers. And so I started with a friend of mine taking all these photographs of flowers. And then another friend of mine was taking some pictures of some butterflies and birds and stuff like that. And then, Bruce Lisher from IPR, right? Independent Project Records. So I needed someone to kind of put it all together. And I sent all this stuff down to him, and he was kind of working with the collage, kind of putting it all together. And then in the end, we ended up kind of he kind of put us in the direction of where we ended up going.
Yeah. Well, it really does. Well, I got that sense. It's, like from taking the tour through this garden, here's like the songs are like flowers, or like these pieces of this tour. But it was just very colorful, and it jumps off the page.
I wanted, same thing what we were talking about before. I wanted the artwork to represent the title of the record, and I wanted the title of the record to represent the songs. Yeah. And I wanted the titles of the songs to represent the songs. And it's like, I wanted everything to kind of fall in place. And I know that's a tall order. It's like, but in a weird way, it's like really the first time I felt like, wow, I felt like it all kind of came together, and I was really proud of the way the whole package, everything. At the end of the day, I was like, all right, I'm digging it.
There was in the LA Times, there was someone who wrote about, she wrote about a couple pieces of art that kind of sustained her through the pandemic.
Yeah.
And she had talked about, there were some paintings that she was enamored of when she was young, but in this era, she kept going back and listened to 50 times, she said, at least, to John Coltrane's Love Supreme.
Supreme. Yeah.
And she just, it is such a great meditation about how important that record was to her personally. And as you know, when I listened to this piece, to the Garden, Imperial Garden, because I think that is one of the most, some of the most useful music to me over this year.
Oh yeah.
That's
a huge compliment. Thanks, Chris.
Not only calming, but there was musically challenging.
Yeah.
These different places. That journey, there's a sense of calm and progress that that colors the album in a very rich way. Because during this year, I think people really did need to glom onto certain kinds of art. I mean, just not only music. And you had this jump starter. Here's this album that was just, so it came out.
No, it came out March 1st.
March 1st. Okay.
It's like the worst possible. I had no idea, like the lockdown and stuff, but yeah, came out. That's when everything locked down.
So you could not, on one level, pick the worst time to turn out an album or the best time to turn out an album that speaks to, more to the soul. Do you think in some ways this is your most personal music?
I would imagine so, just because it's such a small kind of intimate sounding record. So I guess it would be somewhat of, a personal record on that level.
You'll take it.
I'll take it. And it's funny. As we were finishing mixing this record, this would have been 2012, I started working on another solo record, and that's what's going to be coming out this year sometime. Great. And that is, it's kind of like a 180. It's almost like a 180 from Imperial Garden. Yeah. And it's also an instrumental record. I wrote the entire thing on keyboards. Keyboards is pretty much everything I've been doing for a while now. And I kind of got into synthesizers and programming synthesizers and more arranging. And so this new record is kind of like another research and development record for me. But it's funny, I'm curious to get it out and to get feedback, and especially feedback from people like you or people that like my last record. Mm-hmm. And because I think there's definitely some things about it that kind of cross over. There's no acoustic instruments on the record.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's good. It's a 180.
Yeah, but there's some guitar on the record. Electric. There's some electric guitar, and it's the first record that I've ever played bass on it. There's I'm playing a lot of bass. There's a lot of fretless bass. There's a lot of 5-string. There's a lot of low end. It's a real different thing. So I feel like once again, I'm going to be trying to pull people on this other journey. It's just a different beast. And in some ways it's actually, it's so much more electronic than songs from Imperial Garden. I feel like Imperial Garden is very kind of light. A lot of it is very light and airy and kind of, and this is almost kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, it's darker. There's a lot of harder stuff. It's almost, some of it you could say is a little more reminiscent, more like the Monks of Doom, more rock, more hard rock. It's got real drums. Same Michael Jerome's also playing drums on it. Another research and development record. In all honesty, I'm really just trying to grow, and I'm trying to learn, and I'm trying to do as, you know, I'm trying to just expand my horizons and just try as many different things as I can. At the end of the day, I think I'm looking forward to kind of getting back to the singer songwriter, trying to get back to that and see what it sounds like now that I've been doing all this other stuff.
Yeah, going these other directions.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe try and put those elements into, you know, try to join everything back together and then sing and write and get back into guitar. So it's always just like trying different things, but in a weird way, I feel like I love experimenting. I always say, oh, experimental music, but at the end of the day, it's like whatever I do is so based on basic elements of, you know, rhythm, harmony, melody, rock music. The rock music seems to be at the core, and it's like no matter what I do or what I pick up, it never seems to wander off in a super abstract area. I always seem to just bring it back into that arena that I know. And chord changes and the way the bass fits in and the way the drums fit together. And like that core thing is, I feel like is my real, that's what I love. That's the music that really just moves me. And of course, like I'm a big Eno fan, you know, I'm a big Talking Heads fan, David Byrne and all of that stuff. And I listen to a lot of different styles of music, but I love jazz. I'm a big jazz fan. I'm a big Miles Davis fan. I listen to a lot of, I'm always listening to different things and trying to expand my horizons and listen to as much music as I can.
So do you think that finishing or getting Imperial Garden out, but the act of getting it out kind of stimulated you moving into this next album pretty quick?
Yes, absolutely. And also I really was so thrilled with the response that I got from the songs from the Imperial Garden. Like I was after not putting anything out in, you know, 13 years and putting it out and you never know what's going to happen and stuff like that. And I just got so much love from people and people seem to like it. Yeah. And it really pushes me forward. And I felt like, you know, I'm more determined now to continue with my solo stuff and just work on stuff and see where I can take things and try different things and see how it goes, bringing people along on my journey. You know,
that was my sense, is that you'd have to feel so successful with this previous album that you say, okay, you know, now I'm ready for the next thing, because that was fun. And that was successful, and I'm ready now. I'm very excited about that darker turn, because I can see where the light or the airiness of one would like demand that you got, okay, I did that, I'm moving on.
I'm curious to see what the response is, because in some ways I can kind of see some people that liked songs from the Imperial Garden. It might not have enough of the elements that they liked from that to follow the new one. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like there might be another audience I haven't tapped into that might have found songs from the Imperial Garden a little too fluffy. I might lose some people, but I might gain some more people that I missed last time. Yeah. So it's always just kind of, I'm feeling things out and seeing where things go.
So do you have like 3 of your own favorite songs from the most recent album?
Memories of Childhood Actor, you know, 3 Kings, Swamp Water Stomp.
A garden tour itself. That's what
there we go. Right, exactly. The tour through the garden.
And you have to kind of support these musics because
yes, absolutely. I'd love to do that. I'm excited about doing that, and I honestly have no idea how I would tie this, like how I would do it. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Especially with this new one that's coming out. I mean, it's so different And yeah, so basically I've got a lot of work to do.
It's like homework. I give you new homework.
Exactly, man. Thanks. Yeah, thanks.
That
Chris.
wasn't meant to.
Now I'm really stressed out.
Have so much joy in your performance through your.
Oh, thanks, man. That's a big compliment coming from you. Yeah, I can't wait to get back out there and do it again when it's possible. You know, glad to be on your show. It's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, thank you very much, Greg.
Yeah, of course, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you hopefully in the near future in person.